Don't do what I did. I ran out of fuel while flying an airplane. What does this have to do with money? Because I want you to be aware of the dangers that can cause you to crash and burn. I don't want that to happen to you. When you get to the end of this episode, you're going to be blown away with what you can do to protect yourself from running out of gas. I'm Doug Andrew, and I want to address the question of how you can tell if your money is in danger. And I'm going to do that by sharing a true story that took place several years ago when I had a private pilot's license. I actually owned two airplanes, one with one group of friends, one with another group of business associates. One was a Cessna 152, a little two-seater. The other was a Piper Archer, that's a four-seater plane. Well, we used to take these planes to various cities when I needed to be able to have flexibility. And I had offices in the state of Washington, Seattle, and the Tri-Cities area, Las Vegas, Denver. Sometimes when I would get in the plane, I would take one of my children with me. So my oldest daughter was only 5 years old at the time. Her name is Mei Lee. And so I would usually try to take one of the kids, have them have a daddy business trip experience. And so I am flying that day from Provo Airport in Utah. And I wanted to take the Piper, but I didn't realize somebody had rented it from us, because that's what we did when we weren't using it. Nobody told me it was rented out, so I had to use the Cessna. But I had flown in that little Cessna 152 to North Las Vegas Airport several times. I knew it like the back of my hand. And if you're not aware, usually when the weather is good, you fly to VOR stations. VOR stands for Variable Omnidirectional Range. And those are the little things out in the desert sometimes that look like big bowling pins or Mexican hats. You fly as the crow flies. But that day, there were low clouds. I wanted to fly visual, and so I decided to fly down the I-15, Interstate 15 corridor, which was this big L route instead of straight. I wanted to stay low and be able to just follow the traffic, but there was a headwind, and I had always arrived at North Las Vegas Airport in that Cessna with a quarter tank of fuel remaining. So what am I worried about? So I have my little girl in the plane, and we're flying, and about halfway between St. George, Utah and North Las Vegas, and I looked down at the dashboard at the fuel tank gauges for the first time, and they were buried in the red. I went, I'm so stupid. I'm going into a headwind. I'm only going 98 knots. I'm taking a longer route. I was buried in the red on those tanks. And I thought, oh dear, if I run out of fuel, it wasn't a matter of if, it was when. If I turn around and try to get back to St. George to that airport and I run out of fuel, that's a gorge there. It would be ugly trying to land. So I thought, I've got to keep going. At least I have flat desert between where I was and North Las Vegas. To be honest with you, I've never prayed harder. I strapped my little girl in the seat belt. I kept my elevation at 10,000 feet. And I was looking at options all the way. And I thought, okay, if I ran out right now, what would I do? Well, I could land with the traffic on the freeway. Or I could land in a field with the furrows, not against them. You don't want to topple over. Or is there any telephone poles? Or is there any fence posts? Am I going to shear off the wings? Well, folks, it was nerve-wracking, but I'll tell you what was worse. As we began to approach Las Vegas, I could see it in the distance, but between me and the North Las Vegas airport is Nellis Air Force Base. That's restricted airspace. You can't fly through that. I did not want to skirt to the north in the mountains. So I radioed in to the Air Force Base frequency. And I said, this is Cessna 5155 Bravo, requesting permission to land and quickly refuel. He goes, permission denied. Not only that, you are in restricted airspace. You will skirt to the north. I said, sir, I cannot. I am going to fly through your airspace. He said, well, you will do that at your own risk. He said, okay, turn to this frequency. And then he informed his F-16 pilots. They were doing F-16 training maneuvers. And so he told all the F-16 pilots to turn into that frequency. He would go, 55 Bravo. You have two F-16s at 11 o'clock. Verify. Oh, yeah. Oh, right, now you have two at 2 o'clock. Verify. I felt like a moth flying through a bunch of hornets. It was nerve-wracking. I finally could see North Las Vegas Airport. I was so grateful. A prayer was answered that there was no traffic in the pattern, because normally you have to wait your turn to land and go in a traffic pattern this way. I said, this is Cessna 5155 Bravo to the Unicom station, requesting permission to do a straight in. You can do that. When I knew I could finally make it, I put my flaps on and I fell out of the sky. I came down, I touched the tarmac, and ran out of fuel trying to get off the runway. So I was stuck there. I called the fuel truck. This young man comes out like, who are you? Why didn't you taxi in and get fuel? And so he's filling it up. Now, a Cessna 152 has two tanks, one in each wing, that holds a total of 26 gallons, 13 in each wing. He put in 28.5 gallons of fuel up the spouts. And as he was doing that, he goes, sir, do you know how low you were? And he goes, I go, yeah, I ran out. I'll never forget it. He goes, man, you like to live on the edge, don't you? No, I don't. But I was so grateful with my little girl that day that I was able to come out of the sky being out of fuel and land safely. What did I learn from that? Are you ready? So I learned that when I fly, I make sure I take everything into calculation. I don't take things for granted. And hello, the fuel gauges were in front of me for 2 hours, and I ignored them because I got into the routine of flying where I had done that trip so many times and always ended up with a quarter tank of fuel. Well, how does that happen with our money or real life? Many times we have signals, signs, gauges that tells us we're in danger, we're going to run out of gas. Whatever you want to use as a metaphor here. We're so oblivious. Oh, the economy's booming. All of a sudden a tsunami comes and blows us over. Do you remember the tsunami in Thailand? What happened is somehow the fish communicated to the birds, which communicated to the cats and the rats and the elephants on land to get to high ground. But the higher forms of intelligence, humans, they're going out on the beach oblivious to all these signals. Oh, I wonder why the water's clear out there right now. And then they get blown over with a tidal wave. Folks, there are financial tidal waves. And I've seen it. People just think everything's hunky-dory. Hello, we've been in a boom economy. We're long overdue for a correction or recession. Look at all these signals. Savvy business owners, they'll go, oh yeah, the same signs are there. We're hunkering down. We're getting ready. We're buttoning up. We're going to be ready for this hurricane. And other people are just oblivious to it, even though the signals, the gauges are saying there's going to be a major recession or a correction. You do not want to run out of gas with your money. You do not want to be in danger, crashing and burning because you weren't paying attention to the signals that are there. So I would invite you to learn how you can be aware of the dangers, the signals, and make sure no matter what happens, you will have enough fuel. You'll never be in that situation I was in because I made sure that never happened again. And I want that to be true with your money. So please study, learn. I would encourage you to watch this episode to understand how to eliminate the dangers that usually cause people to crash and burn financially, so you don't have to go through that heartburn and turmoil. This is about empowering you.